Welcome to Good Thinking Live. Welcome, everyone, good thinkers from around the world who want to spend a little bit of time thinking about your thinking about our thinking collectively. Welcome to the show. Welcome to our 30 minutes that we carve out each week to give ourselves a little bit of time away from all the time we're told on what to think so we can relax and devote time to thinking about improving how we think. So, welcome to the show. Let us know who you are and where you're from. We've got a lot of questions. I want you to, there's a little project that we're doing together today. So, be ready. We've got people streaming in live from LinkedIn, which I think has like a 10-second delay. And then we have people streaming live from YouTube. And here's the deal. The YouTube people don't see the LinkedIn live stream comments. So I'm going to try to bring as many of your comments into the live stream as possible, because as you know, if you're a regular, this is a participation show. That's the whole point, is participation and engagement so that we can get views and ideas from people from all over the world. So I'm going to start greeting people who are coming onto the show. Fatma, welcome from Tanzania. Fabulous. Welcome. I'm Mabark. I always pronounce things. I'm trying my hardest. The stream is going fast. Barkley, welcome from Washington, D.C. Mark from Montreal. And then sometimes I get something like this where it's like a LinkedIn user, but I don't see who it is. Abdurrashid, hey, welcome. Good thinker. Tassin from Brooklyn. Brunilda from Italy. Michael from Toronto. And we have got it's going so fast, from Poland. And we've got Sheila from Mozambique. And I almost got it. I'm so bad. Thank you for humoring me. It's going so fast. All right. And we've got Dilip from India. And we've got Georgie. Welcome from Belgium. Bonjour. Unless you're speaking Flemish. Anyway, welcome everyone. Keep it coming. Let's see who all is here. I'm going to work so hard on my pronunciation, but then of course I see it and I kind of get stressed out. I'm like, oh, I can pronounce it wrong. We've got Matt from Salt Lake City. Okay, so let's get started, because what we're going to do, and Festus, I'm happy to be here. And we have got Stan Islias from Nigeria. Okay, this is great. This is fantastic, because having all of these perspectives from all over the world is exactly what we're trying to do with this show, because it's easy to kind of think, wow, this is the way everyone thinks. This is what everyone wants. And this gives us a much broader perspective. So we're going to get started. Keep it coming. Let us know. And we're going to share our thoughts in the chat. What is your favorite version of the golden rule? The golden rule is this philosophical principle, and it's really interesting because you go all the way back, to the ancient communities and religions and cultures throughout history. And it seems that every one of these religions and cultures, any writing culture anyway, has a version of what we call now the golden rule. So which version, if any, are better maxims for compassion than they are for empathy, for understanding, versus just maybe feeling, and teasing out these different kinds of ways that these golden rules help or maybe lead us astray. So welcome. I'm going to say hi to a few more people. We have got Pradeep from Bangalore, India, and we've got someone from Vienna, Austria. And could you provide an example of the golden rule? Excellent. Let's get started. The two most common kinds of golden rules are do unto others do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now that's called the positive version. So what you want done to yourself, that's what you should do to others. And then the kind of negative variation is do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself. And you can go through all of history, and they're kind of sometimes hard to translate, but in essence, most, not all, most versions throughout history either go to the negative version, don't do what you don't want done, don't do to other people what you don't want done to yourself, or the positive version, do what you want done to others, what you want done to yourself. Okay. Thank you for the very nice glasses. They're my cartoon glasses. Yeah, they're kind of fun, but they reflect all that stuff. So I'm not sure that they're great for the show, but they're fun. Thank you. All right. So these are the two: the positive formulation, treat others the way you want to be treated, and the negative formulation. There are some other formulations. When you get to the positive or negative formulation, which version do you think is better to guide good behavior or the right thing to do, or what you would want to adopt if you had to adopt the negative version or the positive version? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Abdurrachid says, if you want people to be polite to you, then you should be polite to them. Good question. Abdurrachid always has great comments. Okay, let's keep them coming. Now, there's a couple of other versions that I have literally heard with my own ears. A few years ago, I was in a meeting with it was a fundraising meeting for a big charity. And I was there, and kind of why I was there with all these people, I don't know, but doing some training. And they were going around the room, and one very wealthy individual said the following golden rule. So let me know what you think about this. Then we're going to get into what you think. This person said, and I kind of thought he was kidding, but then I wasn't really sure. He said, those with the gold make the rules. That's the golden rule. I was like, ooh, okay. I don't want to tell you the end of that story, because a few months later, this man unfortunately passed away. And I thought to myself, how does that work? What do you think about that? Those with the gold make the rules. All right. So Fatma says the positive. Matt says the positive. So it looks like, and Abdurrachid kind of hinted at the positive. So it does seem to, the consensus seems to be that you want to treat people the way that you want to be treated. Okay. And Brunilda says both. Okay. All right, cool. What about those with the gold make the rules? Is it true? Is it unfortunately true? Is it sometimes true? What do you think about that? It's a little cynical, but is it true? All right. I would say it depends on the purpose of the golden rules. Excellent. Excellent. We're going to get into it. This is not going to be as obvious, hopefully, as it sounds. I think we're going to get into some fun ways of thinking about this. And then my father had a golden rule, which he was joking, but he used to say, do unto others before they do unto you. I thought that was hilarious. He wasn't really saying, but after he said it, I actually have heard people say this, do unto others before they do unto you, which is just a kind of a fun twist on the golden rule. It's not really a guide. It's just kind of funny. But those with the gold make the rules. This has been something that people have argued. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. All right. So the positive form, it sounds like most people, not all. Brunilda says both. Abdurrachid says it depends, which I agree. Now, let me ask you, taking those who voted for the positive version, this suggests that if you want people to treat you with respect, or as Abdurrachid said, to be polite, that you should treat them with respect. Now, here's the question. Is there some way that you want to be treated that you can at least imagine someone else not wanting to be treated that way? Is there any way that you would want to be treated, but you certainly wouldn't expect everyone to want to be treated that way? So what does that do with the positive version? Okay. And so Fatma says, yes, it's unfortunately true. The goal can sometimes be the positive rule and other times the negative impact. Absolutely. And Abdurrachid asked, where did it come from? It's interesting. You can go all the way back to where it came from. I mean, it goes back to, there's even like in ancient Persia, Zoroaster said, the character is best that doesn't do to another that isn't good for itself. So you can go way back to almost the beginning of the written word and find different versions of the golden rule. I think we as a human species are trying to find guidelines that we can live by, that are general enough that can guide our morality and guide our intention and guide all of these things. I'm not sure how much these rules these rules versus guidelines. We're going to get into the difference in a few minutes. Okay. Now, is there some way that you don't want to be treated, taking the negative version, that you could at least imagine someone else wanting to be treated? Like maybe there's some way that I want to be treated, but you don't want to be treated that way. So therefore, the positive golden rule is a little weird. What about this? Can you imagine there's some way that you don't want to be treated, but you can imagine someone else doesn't have a problem being treated that way? The negative. The last version is called the empathetic version. Here's the empathetic version, which is when you wish something upon others, you also wish it upon yourself. For example, if you wish ill will towards someone else, then you're also wishing ill will towards yourself. Or if you wish riches upon someone else, you also wish riches upon yourself. I'm not sure that this is really the most empathetic version. What do you think? Now, Sheila says, I believe that we should do unto others as they would appreciate us to do. Not seen from the lens of who does, but from the lenses of who receives. Rubber chicken. How do we know? How do we know what other people want? How do we know? I love that, Sheila. Excellent. I agree. How do we know that what other people want? Can we say that the golden rule objective perspectives are subjective? And what would be the impact of that? Probably also always subjective, right? Unless we can upload our memories to the cloud, which maybe someday, or our thinking to the cloud, which maybe someday we'll be able to. I think it's both. Absolutely. All right. And that gets to this empathetic. Sheila's point gets to this empathetic version of the golden rule because different people tend to be exposed to different forms of the golden rule and to different degrees based on factors such as the predominant culture or religion in their society. But all forms of the golden rule revolve around these underlying concepts and the same underlying intention. All forms aim to help you treat others better by using the way you would want yourself to be treated as a guide. Here's the question. How accurate is the way you want to be treated or the things you want? How accurate is that a guide for how others want to be treated? And should you impose the way you want to be treated on others if you think it's the best way? How accurate is your own feelings about how you want to be treated a guide for how you should treat other people? That's a question. Is it really good guide, really bad guide, or somewhere in between? All right, let's get some other things in here. So Michael says the positive. Let's see. What might be good for someone, one person might be not for someone else. Absolutely. And Abdurrahman says, if we apply an RRV to the golden rule, what would be the outcome? RRV, as a critical thinker, is reliability, relevance, and validity. Probably that's really good. I have to give that a rubber chicken too, all of the comments, but this one is good because it really gets to how accurate, how consistent, so reliable and pertinent, relevant and valid, is the way that we want to be treated going to be a good indicator for the way someone else should be treated? And Sheila says, through honest engagement with others. Okay, so how do you know when you're honestly engaging with others? All right, so here's a couple of golden rules. All right, I'm going to give you some different versions of the golden rules. And we're going to say that whether we agree or disagree. Now, there's nothing in the middle. So we're going to just try it. Let's say, okay, overall, I agree. Overall, I disagree. Because if we all say in the middle, it depends, which is probably, do you mostly agree or mostly disagree? All right, that's our question. Okay, and Hussein says, acceptance and respect are the utmost important golden rule ever. Okay, fantastic. Great, can't not love that. Barclay says there's a difference between treating two people how they each want to be treated and treating them both how one of them wants to be treated. Both could be said to fit the golden rule. Ooh, I like it. I like it. All right, ready to vote. This is mostly agree, mostly disagree. All right, ready? If you want people to be polite to you, then you should be polite to them. Mostly agree, mostly disagree. Depends on your goal, right? How about this one? If you don't want people to be rude to you, then you shouldn't be rude to them. So we've got one positive, one negative. And just think about polite and rudeness, not to generalize, but if you just specifically, if you want people to be polite to you, should you be polite to them? Is that the best way? I guess it depends on what you want. Should you? Should you? Think about the word should. If you don't want people to read, okay. So Brenda says agree. Justin says agree. Okay, so we agree. We've got conversation or to treat someone is always a matter of individualism. There is no standard. It is more or less a question of gender, culture, their experience. I did the experience to have sensitive to colleagues from the former UdSSR countries behind the Iron Curtain. Absolutely. Excellent. And I think that those kinds of differences, empathetic or dreaming, agree. Michael, good point. Excellent. All right. We've got agree, a mixture of both, never leave your values. Excellent. But, I like the never leave your values. Let's keep this one in mind. Because what if your values are different than someone else's? You think they're better, but they think theirs are better. The positive mirror effect. Igor says the positive mirror effect. Okay, what about this one? If you want people to help you, in a selfless manner, which that gets tricky anyway. I don't even know what that means. But then you should also help them in a selfless manner. What do you think about that? Obviously a positive. Do you think that's mostly right, mostly wrong? I'm going to say on that one, I don't agree with that one. I can get into it, but I want to know what you guys think. All right. If you don't want people to selflessly deny you the help that they can give, then you shouldn't selflessly deny them the help that you can give. All right. So Barclay says, it's a good baseline, but some situations require less politeness. Absolutely. And some people might not might not deem politeness, label politeness with the same criteria as you do. What's polite in one culture, maybe not polite in your culture. And this gets to, I'm going to take a little detour. This gets to the empathetic or the emphatic form. There's also the emphatic form and the empathetic form. Let me give you the emphatic form. If you wish positive things to someone else, then you also wish positive things to yourself. That's the emphatic form. Some people call it the empathetic form. It's more emphatic. Like, if you do this, that means you're also doing this by definition. All right. So here's what I want to, here's this idea. And this comes out of military intelligence, particularly in the United States. And it's something called strategic empathy. And it's an interesting thing as we try to look at world leaders and say, oh, they must be this, or they must be motivated by this, or they must be motivated by that. In the United States, here where I am, a lot of people are motivated by money. So when they see someone acquiring money, they think that the motivation must be money or power. Those are the two options. Like if you're acquiring money, it's either you want money or power. This strategic empathy takes a different approach. And you'll have to let me know if you're interested in diving deeper into this topic. Because, we're always looking for topics each week when we're here. And this strategic empathy is you put the person on a timeline. So for example, you take a world leader. And in this particular case, the conversation was about Vladimir Putin. When was he born? Where was he born? And you put that in the beginning of the timeline. You actually go back in the past and you go up into the present, toward the present. But what kinds of things would he have been exposed to, or the person you're trying to think about? What kinds of food, music, conversation, fears, excitement would that person have been exposed to on that date, on that place, maybe even levels of pollution? We can get really detailed to understand that you might have been born 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, or maybe earlier, and you had different sets of exposures. And this is really how you start to build a more intellectual or strategic empathy, which I think keep that in mind as we closer to building our own better version of the golden rule, which is our goal for the last part of this show. We're going to try to build our better version of the golden rule. All right. And by the way, if you're commenting in the live, awesome. If you come to this or you share this with someone and you want to see how they can help us build this better rule or perhaps guideline, then feel free to comment in the chat long after this is live, because we're going to get to all of the comments. All right. So let's get some comments here. We have, we've got a question of Mitchell's asking Sheila, do we assume that the other person has agency to express what they need? That's really a great question. I'm going to take a minute with this question. I think it's very easy, and we see this a lot with aid workers in different parts of the country, where aid workers go in knowing as experts what they want to achieve, what this other country, these other people should be aiming to achieve. And then we go in with sometimes paternalistic or maybe even patronizing, father knows best, big country knows best, rich country knows best. And we go into these countries and try to impose our thinking and what we determine the way we would want to be treated, or not the way we would want to be treated, upon another country. And I think that I actually like the version of the negative golden rule: do not do unto others what you don't want done to yourself. And if you get to what people really don't want, most people don't want someone to control their agency or decide what's best for them, I think. What do you think about that? I like Mitchell's comment a lot. It's a great question. Abdurrashid says, exactly, the Putin example is really reflecting, which highlight the circumstances that produce the golden rule. Can we say that some golden rules are outdated? Yeah, I think the golden rule is outdated. We're going to do better. Sheila says, I would suggest it comes from our own intentions. However, doing good must be measured by others. If we get positive feedback, we're doing the right way, and vice versa. If we get negative feedback, our intention is to do good, we must correct the ways and try again, or quit if that's the feedback we're receiving. Fantastic. And that really speaks to remaining curious, applied curiosity, using curiosity to not be so precious, not be so assumptive, but to really explore if our intention to do good is being met by the action. That's great. I love it. Sheila. Fantastic. All right. So let's get into some other versions of, can you think of the problems with the golden rule? Like, think of when we think we desire or dislike is universal. Do we all want the same things? Do we all want the same things? Well, sometimes we get to the core of what we might want as a human, but between the core and how we treat other people, there's a lot of different ways that things shake out. So do I want, I see this a lot with like maybe artists, musicians, or even sports figures, where they love their art, they love their sport, and then they are really good at it. So they start getting to be famous, maybe rich and famous. And then somewhere along the lines, they lose track of the fact that something that drove them was they loved their art. And it gets misplaced, or replaced rather, with I love the fame, or I love the riches. And so then we start thinking, wait a minute, if I was a basketball player, I would love those riches. Or if I was an artist or some kind of fabulous musician, I love those riches. So we've got Brunilda says, absolutely not. Abdurrashid says, I would say that the golden rule are prey to false consensus bias, where we think people agree with us to a greater extent than they do, false consensus bias. And Sheila answers Mitchell. Thank you for your question. I wouldn't say I would assume, or else I would be biased in my actions. Fantastic. And one of the things, and Sheila's kind of hinted at, applied curiosity, is being able to question our assumptions. Hussein says, I think that most of the rules are built on the two principles of compassion and empathy, but some organizers make certain loopholes that serve their interest in business. Aha. And compassion and empathy, good point, by the way, can compassion and empathy be at odds with one another? Like, In our corporate world, with anticipating the future as part of our high stakes decision making, we have this high stakes decision making training program that we work with companies to make high stakes decisions better, an online training and coaching program. We talk about imagining, anticipating futures and imagining possible futures. And that's where we bring in this strategic empathy kind of exercise so that we can poke at our assumptions about other people's desires and motivations. So we've got the most important rule I have is to concentrate in communication with others. Excellent. And now here's my secret, a very simple secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Aha. Got a little prince. I love it. I love it. Aha. Okay. So is there a downside to imagining what it would be like to be in someone else's shoes? Is there a downside to imagining or putting yourself, because that's all we can do, right? Putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. If I was Michael Jordan, I would do this, this, and this. If I was Vladimir Putin, I would do this, this, and this. If I was this leader or this religious figure, I would do this, this, and this. Is there a downside to imagining ourselves in someone else's shoes? All right. So we see this all the time. So ignoring the differences that we don't have access to by not doing this strategic empathy exercise, by not even imagining the foods that someone was exposed to, the ideas that they were exposed to, the sounds and the music and the pollution and all the things that cause VOMPs. I don't know if you know VOMPs. Have you taken our removing noise and bias from strategic decision-making LinkedIn learning course? You'll learn about VOMPs, variations in our mental processes. Ignoring the differences, these things that we don't even know relate to our decisions and our desires. This can lead to problematic situations where one person might mistreat someone else under the guidance of the golden rule. And this issue has been described by writer George Bernard Shaw like this. He says, "Do not do unto others as you that they should do unto you. Their tastes may not be the same." What do you think? This is the platinum rule. Ready for the platinum rule? The platinum rule is you should treat others the way they want to be treated. How do you know? How do you know? Bring some comments in. Let's see what we've got. We don't all like the same shoes. We don't all like the same shoes. George Bernard Shaw, Barkley, woohoo. And Brunilda, not always is possible because someone has passed before the same. Excellent. Downside is you inherit their shoes with your biases. Oh, that's good. The shoes don't all fit. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome, welcome. We've got Trina. Thank you, Becky. It's good quality to share your knowledge because it will help additional as well as more learning quality. Thank you. I hope you're doing well as well. And I love it. We've got Rebecca. Exactly. All right. We don't all have the same shoes. We bring our biases to the shoes. So this platinum rule has been criticized because it can nudge you to act towards someone in a way that contradicts your own values. So for example, could you adopt the platinum rule? So for example, if you knew that those shoes fit, could you adopt the platinum rule where you figure out exactly how someone wants to be treated? And do you know with absolute certainty the way that even you want to be treated? Sometimes I surprise myself. Could you imagine being wrong about this about other people? Could you imagine being wrong about this about yourself? So is empathy doable? If you could know with absolute certainty the way every individual wished to be treated, could you treat them according to their wishes? Here's the question. This one I really want you to answer. If you could know with absolute certainty the way every individual wanted to be treated, could you treat them according to their wishes? So Barkley says, what about a friend with addiction? They want to be treated, to be left alone to fuel and feed their addiction. If they're cool shoes, okay, I have to give one for that because as a fellow shoe lover. Okay. And I know we're joking with that, but still, could you treat everyone? Think about, what if they totally were at odds with your values? Could you treat someone exactly the way they want to be treated? All right, let's try to upgrade our rule. When you look at the difference between rules and guidelines, rules are strict. Rules don't leave much room for interpretation unless there's a formal process to address these rules. And we talk about the difference between rules and guidelines in decision making in our newest course, Removing Noise and Bias from Strategic Decision Making. So this difference between rules and guidelines. So maybe we should call our updated version a guideline. So it leaves more room for nuance, okay? Leaves more room for nuance. Now, Brenda says she would struggle if she had to treat people exactly. She knew how they wanted to be treated. She was kind of at odds with your values or what you want. It's not how you would want to be treated. You'd struggle with being able to treat. I think that's realistic. Hussein says we should listen to another just to understand the point of view of others before treating anyone in any way. Absolutely. Abdurrachid says that would really create a challenge to the distinction between intellectual and emotional empathy. Excellent. Big difference. All right. So let's rewrite the golden rule. I thought we could call our updated version the Palladium Guideline. Palladium, because it's the most expensive of the 4 major precious metals, gold, silver, and platinum. It's rarer than platinum. And the palladium, I think palladium is actually used in those catalytic converters, which is why, I don't know about you, but all over my city, people are getting their cars stolen, or at least their catalytic converters stolen. I wonder if they're going after the palladium. Anyway, we're going to call ours the Palladium Guideline. So this will be our new universal guide, because that will leave more nuance than a rule, for how we should treat others. So this is the question. In the chat going forward, we're not going to, because it's 31 minutes, so we're 1.5 minutes over. We don't want to do that. What should we include in our Palladium Guideline? Let's create it together as good thinkers. Let's do this. I'm going to bring a couple more comments in, and then the rest of the comments, keep them coming in the chat. We're going to try to create a Palladium Guideline, and I want your input as good thinkers, people who like to think about their thinking. And if we put something, let's poke at each other's with, we can poke at each other's, try to poke at everything that I'm saying, poke at it, find assumptions, bust my thinking. That's how we improve how to think. All right. So Brunilda says, not always, because it depends on the situation. If someone wants to hurt themselves to the point of life, we cannot show empathy, but help them. And we have got Jawad from Morocco. Excellent. Shalom and salam, Jawad. And we have got our rights. Fantastic, Jose. Yeah, we got to talk about our rights. So anyway, keep it coming. Let's create, someone in the chat, will some people in the chat write the Palladium Guideline in the chat for us? Just Palladium Guideline. Let's create the Palladium Guideline. And I don't know for sure if I'll be here next week. We've got a couple of workshops next week, and some of them I think want to start really early in the morning on Monday morning. So if your company is looking for a workshop on critical thinking, applied curiosity, and better decision making, sometimes that gets in the way of our good thinking show. But hopefully we'll see you all as many Mondays as possible, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, to gather good thinkers from all over the world so we can devote a little bit more time to thinking about our thinking. Thank you. Palladium Guideline. We've got it. Thanks. I'm going to put this in. Thank you.